Hello, and welcome to the Brad Beldon Show, your go-to podcast for all things roofing, the latest buzz in San Antonio, local politics, and just about anything else under the sun. I'm really excited about today's guest. Today is Bill Goddard, our sales manager for our home improvement division. And Bill, welcome to the show. And I think today we're going to talk a little bit about what to expect when Team Beldon comes to your home. And I think really, Bill, what brought this about was we got a one-star rating on Google last week that kind of caught us off guard because the homeowner felt that that the consultation process took too long. And we try and educate the consumer about it's roughly about a 90-minute presentation and education. Could you walk us through that 90 minutes of what that whole process is and why we think it's so important for them to spend that time getting educated?
Sure, absolutely. I kind of think about it like going into a big box home improvement store and just asking to buy a lawnmower, right? And just waiting for them to bring the only thing they have out to you. You probably wouldn't do that, right?
No, you wouldn't.
You'd probably want to talk about what your yard was like and how big it was and who was going to be using the mower and how much you wanted to spend. And there'd be a lot of information that needed to be exchanged. Now, if you take that and put it to a home improvement, this is your biggest investment, your home. And now all of a sudden you're going to want to shorten that down to a very short conversation. Doesn't make a lot of sense. So what we do is we spend a lot of time fact finding, finding out what the customer's wants and needs are. What are the things that are important to them? What colors they like? Things like that. And then we take the time to analyze their property and really make sure we understand what it is that they need before we start to show them anything. Once we understand all of that information, which takes a good bit of time, we're going to come back in and sit down with them and actually show them the products and show them how we're going to install them. We're going to tell them about our company and why our reputation is so good in the industry. And all that takes a little time. And then, as you can imagine, most customers have a lot of questions. And so the more questions you have, the longer it takes. So you can very easily see how that would take a good hour to 90 minutes to get through all of that.
So I think, and that's really, you hit the nail on the head there, because if you were going to come to my house and talk to Susan,
Yes.
I think that discussion would be quite different than if they came to your house and talked to Ellen.
Oh, my goodness.
And I
Yes.
think that they need to really, when we're educating the consumer, those needs are different and the wants are different. And I think that we don't want to sell them or have them invest in a product that they don't truly need and that it's not going to solve their problem. And if we don't take away the headache, then why are they making that investment
Correct.
to begin with?
Yeah. So that's why we spend so much time up front doing an analysis on their property, is we have to understand what it is they truly need, because we don't want to just provide something that's not needed, a service that's going to be useless to them. We want to provide them a true solution.
And I think Bill, that you and I have been doing this a long time.
Yes, we have.
This is your second time here at Beldon.
Mhm.
And I think what both of us have learned, regardless of the product that we provide to the consumer, is an educated consumer at the beginning of the project and educating them throughout the project has always led to more satisfied customers than when we didn't spend the time walking them through and answering those questions. Because sometimes what we have found, and I don't think it's any different than if you and I went to Home Depot or anywhere else, is we may not actually know what we need unless we're asking questions as the consumer as well.
That's true. And the other part of that is, by giving the customer a really good education, is that they don't have that feeling when we leave of, did I miss something? Do I not know something? So they feel very comfortable about what they've just purchased, and they know that it's going to work for their home.
So Bill, you call in and you're going to ask one of our representatives to come there.
Mhm.
Susan's going to want to make some lemonade, make some gluten-free cookies. I mean, what should Susan expect when they come to the house? How long will our representative be there?
Mhm.
And what does that process actually look like for Susan?
Sure. That's a really good question. A lot of people have a little bit of anxiety before we show up because they don't know what's going to happen, or maybe they've had a bad experience. Our representatives show up at the house. You really don't have to have any preparation made ahead of us showing up there.
No cookies?
No cookies,
Okay.
but cookies are
Oh,
accepted.
you
if
and I
we,
are okay
yeah,
with the cookies, right?
definitely accepted. Every once in a while, we get that customer that wants to have a beer with us, but we have to abstain because we're on the job. But no, we show up at the house, and we're going to want to try to help the customer feel as comfortable as possible. We're going to be able to talk with the customer about their wants and needs. That's where we always start, asking questions about why we're there, what drove them to call us out there, how long have they been thinking about their project, and what made them decide to have something done today. Why is today the day you want to have somebody come out and take a look at it? So once we get all those questions answered, we want to go outside with the customer and take a walk around their house, actually get them outside, have them point out to us what their problem areas are, what are the things that they saw that made them call us. And once we start to understand that, it helps us hone in a little bit. Once we've done that, we typically let the homeowner go inside, and we do a deep dive analysis into their property. We'll take pictures, we'll take video, we'll look at everything we can. We use a lot of tools and technology to really understand what the problem is, whether that's with gutters or with roofing. Once we've done all of that analysis, we plan a strategy for the customer to help best solve their problem. Then we take that inside and we sit down with the customer and explain what it is that we found, and then what we're going to do to help solve their problem, and then show them every aspect of that project.
So Susan does not want me to be there to make a decision. She thinks she's capable of making all decisions by herself, right? But one of the things that we like for the consumer to be present in is that if both homeowners are there, they may have different needs, different wants, or something that we say might actually trigger something that the other person didn't know about. And why do you feel that ultimately the consumer gets a better product when both property owners are there at the initial consultation and understand what to expect? I mean, I know for me, even the postman or the Amazon delivery guy or person doesn't like coming to my house, because the minute those 5 dogs start barking, they run.
I don't like coming to your house.
No, nobody likes coming to my house. But I mean, doesn't that process of walking around, and of course you'd have to be nuts to want to go in my backyard, but walking through and saying, "Hey, Brad, what are we going to do with all those German Shepherds?" And we're going to be working on the outside of your house. I think that both of the homeowners or property owners probably have different needs. And what are you going to do with all those dogs?
Yeah.
Are you going to put them in
Sure.
the kennel, or,
Yeah.
I mean, why is it so important that we have everybody there present during the initial consultation?
So I've been doing this for more than 30 years now, and I can tell you that one thing that
We've both been doing this more than 30 years.
I
we
just
both
said
have
more.
a little bit of gray hair,
I just
right?
said more than 30 years. I didn't give an exact number, but the one thing that I found is that when I'm in a home with 2 customers, they never both ask the same questions, and they both neither give the same answers.
Are you allowed to ask questions in your house?
Yeah, sometimes. But both of them have different opinions on things. They both have different likes and colors. They have different questions about how we're going to do something. One of them will remember something that the other one doesn't remember. And so the first thing that happens if you just see one homeowner, you only get half of the concerns. You only get half of the solution, and you don't take into consideration the other person's wants and needs. And so we're really focused on understanding both people's wants and needs, because at the end of the day, if I made a decision in my house, the first thing I'm going to get asked is about 20 questions that I forgot to ask, and it's probably going to be a problem. So we want to try to have both of them there at the same time, or as many of the decision makers as we can, so everybody's questions get answered, and at the end of the day, everybody feels comfortable with the project.
And and Bill, I mean, the color aspect that you brought up
Mhm.
is one of the things that more and more people continue to ask. And a couple years ago, it reminds me a couple years ago, a friend of mine, um, doctor and his wife, asked us to install a blue metal roof, and it wasn't a normal blue. It was like a Miami type blue. Um, I called him back and I said, I think there's something wrong. Are you sure that both of you are on the same page?" And he said, "Brad, that's the color we want." And I mean, I vividly remember being completely shocked. And I'm like, "Could the three of us have a conversation?"
Mhm.
And he said, "We talked about it. This is the color we want." And good friend, I mean, a really good friend, and I finally just blurted out, "That color is going to look horrible on your house." And he said, "We have a plan." I didn't understand the plan. But when they repainted their house white, because it was a brown, and they put this blue roof on, we had never, ever, Bill, sold that blue, ever.
Mhm.
In all the years, you and I have been in this a very long time, had never sold that color. And the vision that they had combined was so different than what
Mhm.
my vision was.
Mhm.
And you know, the thing that you and I see day in and day out, and the customer doesn't always have that data. There's 4 or 5 colors,
Mhm.
whether it's roofing, windows, gutters. Most people stay within a
Very
very
narrow.
narrow window of
Yes.
color selections.
Mhm.
And when they go off that rail
Mm.
and come up with a, I wouldn't call it a wild color, but something that is unique, right? It makes you think twice. And
Oh,
then
sure.
it's good to have that dialogue with them. And I guess if we had done it over again, I would have said to them, "Can you explain to
Plain.
me
Mhm.
why you think this color is going to look good? Because I don't think you're going to be happy."
Right.
But it's one of the coolest looking houses in San
And
Antonio. And I mean, I mean, it's just fascinating. And I completely blew it. Because if I hadn't have listened to them, I would have tried everything I could to push them away.
Mhm.
But they were adamant together as a team, and they said, "No, this is the color we want."
That's awesome. You know, we always talk about that in terms of we wanna give them direction, but we don't wanna paint our seagull into their picture, right? So, I'm not gonna put a seagull in there if they don't want it in there. We're gonna make sure that's exactly what they want. But that's a great example of that.
So Bill, when we were visiting with this customer, I know that you happened to be there as
Mhm.
well. And you know, the LeafGuard product we've been selling for over 25 years. And I don't even know how many homes it's installed on in San Antonio. At one point, we had 17 locations
Right.
across the country, and now we have San Antonio.
Mhm.
Um, you know, it's such a unique product, and it's the only product of its kind. And what makes that patented one-piece system so unique, and why is that of value to the customer when there's so many other brands out there and you see their commercials over and over and over again? But at the end of the day, you keep coming back to the one product. There's one product that everybody tries to emulate. And why do they try to emulate LeafGuard?
Mhm. Well, the uniqueness about LeafGuard is that it is a one-piece system. Everything else starts with the same type of system, which is an open gutter. Open gutters have been around for years and years and years, and they've just come up with all these different types of toppers that they put on top of that open gutter to try to stop debris and leaves and everything else from getting in there. And some of them do a pretty good job of stopping the debris and the leaves.
But
The
they get stuck.
but they get stuck. But the one problem that they don't think about and that they don't manage that LeafGuard does is actually manage the water itself. Because what happens in a hard rain, a gutter will fill up, and if it's open with just a cover on the top, water is going to come out both the front and the back side of that gutter. And what happens when water comes out the back side of that gutter, it starts to push up under the eave, up under their shingle, rot their decking, rot their fascia, and do all kinds of other damage, as well as not allow the water to drain out the way it's supposed to. Because the LeafGuard system is made as a one piece and the way we install it to the house, there's no way that water can ever get behind that gutter. So we're managing the water, keeping it in front of the house and out the drains rather than ever touching the fascia or the roofing edge or anything like that, as well as we're keeping all the debris out of the gutter. That's just the plus.
Well, and you mentioned the installation process. So we bring a 26-foot truck to your house.
Right.
It's huge. And that's because the machine is large for it to be able to extrude that aluminum with that single shape. We show up at the house. You're sitting there drinking your cup of coffee in the morning. What's the consumer, or what is our audience? What should they expect to happen that day when we start removing the gutters? Because it's loud. It's not quiet, and it's difficult work, and you're
It's
working off
construction.
ladders. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what should a consumer expect when we show up?
Sure. Well, the first thing that happens when they show up is usually our lead installer will get with the homeowner and walk through the project with them one more time just to make sure that we understand exactly what we're doing. We know where all the downspouts are going to be placed because we don't want any surprises at the end of that job. That's the first thing.
And sometimes what our customer thought they were getting and what we put on paper and what we transferred to the production team, sometimes there is a disconnect.
There is. And sometimes, one of the reps will be out and they'll put a gutter or a downspout in one place, and the installation guys who really know the product will get out there and say, no, that's not the right spot for it. And they'll consult with the consumer and get it done exactly the right way. So,
well, and even there,
yeah,
let's take what Susan did. We used one color of gutter and a different color downspout.
That's
and
right.
The installer asked Susan, we don't often do two different colors. Is this what you want?
Are you absolutely sure?
Right. And he wanted to confirm with Susan that, yes, she wanted a different color downspout than she did the gutter.
Right. Because at the end of the day, when we finish, we don't want somebody to go, oh, that wasn't supposed to be that way.
Well, but Susan was right.
Yeah.
It looked better that way.
Yeah, absolutely. So we go through that process with them first. Then the next thing that we do is, once we are absolutely sure what we're going to do, we start to remove all the gutters. We try to be very careful about not getting, debris into the bushes and things like that. Our guys take proper care, and we get all of that out of the way and take everything down to just the fascia board. Once we get it down to the fascia board, we actually examine the fascia board just to make sure there's no rot or anything that we missed in the initial consult. And because if there is, we don't want to put new gutters up on top of rotted fascia or a problem. So we'll check that out. We have different types of installation. We have some jobs that we install with what we call a fascia wrap, which actually encapsulates the whole fascia with aluminum.
And it's cool. I wish we had that when Susan and I installed them.
It's really cool. What it does is, not only does it help to protect the fascia, it just eliminates ever having to worry about painting behind those gutters again. Just a really neat feature. And then depending on your fascia, some fascia slants backwards and some fascia also has a little 1-inch drip edge on it. So we'll use a spacer to go in between the gutter and that fascia to make sure that the gutter never tips backwards so that the water flows out. Then we'll extrude all the gutters right there on site, and it's a really cool thing to watch.
And we make them to length, so there's no joints.
Yeah, I was out at an install the other day out down south of town, and we did 180-foot runs of gutter, all in one section. There were about 6 of us holding these big, long pieces of gutter, but we can extrude to any length we need to make it custom to the house.
Okay, wait a minute. There were 6 of you?
Yes.
Bill, where were you? You had to have been on one of the two ends. There's no way that they put you in the middle, as short as you are, because we would have bent the gutter. Okay, come on. Where were you standing?
I was at the end.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Because if I was in the middle, I would have been reaching up and not touching anything. So,
okay, fair enough.
So we did a big long extrusion, but we do make them custom to the site. And then once the site is prepped with all the fascia wrap and things we need, we'll install the gutters. And then we have some other unique features that we do. We do inside corners that are all one molded piece rather than just piecing the gutter together. That way you never have to worry about seams breaking and leaking at the corners. You see that
And
a lot with
and
gutters.
over the 25 plus years that we've been installing, that
Mm,
technology in itself has changed
absolutely.
because
Yeah.
we did used to just cut them in the
Seam
corner
them in the
when
corner.
it was
Yeah.
first introduced into
Hmm.
the marketplace,
Hmm.
and it's improved, right?
Absolutely.
It's hard to believe the enhancements that they've made over 25 years
Hmm.
on a gutter,
On a
right?
gutter.
Right.
You know,
So I mean, even
one
the big mouths.
one fun fact about gutters is they used to be made out of wood.
Yeah.
If you can imagine that, wooden gutters up on your house. Talk about redundant.
Well, and one of the things that's great when you replace your gutters is we recycle everything that we take down.
Absolutely. Very
Yeah.
clean environment. So we recycle what we bring down, whether it's steel gutters or aluminum
And we have two
gutters.
bins, one for the
Hmm.
steel, one for the aluminum.
That's right.
And we've been using Jackie at Mission for golly, I don't know how many years we've been doing business with them over there. And so really none of that goes into the landfill.
No, we keep it clean. You were also talking about the big mouth adapters.
And we're not talking about you or me.
Yeah, I'm one of the big mouth adapters, but what it is it's a large adapter that connects to the bottom of the gutter so that we have a larger opening for the water to drain out. That way we make sure that that system continues to be clean, and even the little bit of debris that gets in it flushes out of the gutter, and no problems.
And those downspouts are the largest downspouts in the industry.
That's correct.
It makes a huge difference.
And it's also a heavier gauge of aluminum, just like the LeafGuard product is made out of, so they last.
So, Bill, we provide a number of services to our consumers for home improvement: doors, windows, siding, roofing. Some of that stuff we can't provide a final answer to the consumer because sometimes we have to go back to the office, do some more research. They come and see Susan, and what should Susan expect? How long should it take for us to get back to them? Because most people want to invest right away. Buy. But we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing. What should they expect from the Beldon representative after they've left the house?
Yeah, that's really important. The most of our projects we can give a quote on the same day, but there are some complicated projects, whether that be a roofing project, a siding project, or even a gutter project in some cases. But we usually try to make our turnaround no more than about 24 to 72 hours with our response back to the customer. So if we come out and see you on a Monday, we can go back and get our facts together, and we should be back in contact with you no long later than about Wednesday of that week, so that we can. And a lot of times what we do is rather than just call you up, we'll go ahead and set another appointment with you at the point where we're out the first time. That way we make sure and tag you into our schedule to where we don't get too busy. That way we know exactly when we're coming back out to see you and show you what we've come up with for you.
Speaking of busy, you and I have been doing this a very long time.
You've said that a couple of times.
You used to be well, we have. Look at my gray hair, right, from up top. You and I both know in the home improvement industry that the hours don't ever seem to end. Right? Because really we want to be there when the homeowner is there. So it's usually early in the morning, late at night, nights and weekends, lots of Saturdays and Sundays. You and I both have 3 daughters. Susan and I also have a son, but how have you found that you're able to balance that work-life situation where your customer base is when you want to have the time off as well? And how have you and Ellen been able to manage that for 40 plus years? And how I think you have tremendous buy-in from your family, and why that's so important to you and your career. And what would you recommend to other people that want to do this?
Yeah, it's not always easy.
No, it's not.
I'll start out by saying that, and and I've not always done a great job of it, but I've learned as I've gone along my journey, and I've gotten better at being present. Just when I am home, trying to be as present as I can. Whether that's fixing lunches for my girls before they go to school, which I used to do every morning, as a younger dad. And, even now being able to go over to my daughter's house and see my grandkids after work in the evening, when my wife is there, it's just trying to show up and be present.
So you mentioned the lunches. So Susan bought me that big box of Sharpies with all the different colors,
Right.
and I used to draw pictures
Mm,
and messages,
that's
inspirational messages on the kids'
nice.
lunches.
Nice.
And they would come home and they would say, "Dad, it's so embarrassing that you draw all these pictures and you say, have a good day."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Well, why is it embarrassing?
Yeah.
My friends laugh at me." I'm like, "No, they wish their
They
parents
would.
did the same thing
Yeah.
too." But it was
Exactly.
fun,
Yeah.
Back then, though, we had those, what were they, Crustables or something like that. I mean, it wasn't like it was really hard for me to make the lunch because everything was pre-made. All I did was I threw everything that wasn't cold in the night before, the napkin, the spoon,
Right. Right.
the treat. And then they would complain that Dad did a bad job on the treats. I'm like, I didn't do the shopping. I just assembled the final
Yeah.
product.
My kids still brag that I make the best peanut butter and jelly sandwich
You
in the
didn't use
world.
the Uncrustables?
No.
Oh, you could drop an Uncrustable in there frozen, and by the time they had lunch, it was
It was
thawed
ready
out.
to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Bill, all the different products that we have, the consumer says, I want to do business with a company that's been in business 78 years. You have integrity, you've been around, you are involved in the community, you give back to the community. They're ready to move forward.
Mhm.
What's the next step? What things do we offer from a payment perspective, a financing perspective that enables the consumer to do business with us?
Right. One of the things that's really important in our industry is to try to make the project as affordable as possible. Whether that's the overall price of the project or a monthly payment or some sort of financing options for them. So, of course, we still take good old cash for our projects.
But you don't see that very often anymore.
Not as much anymore, no. And then we have different financing options available. We have some, same as cash options for periods of time, which allows a customer to use the bank's money for free for a little while they put their financing together. And then we also offer traditional bank loans that give the customer a period of time to finance at a lower payment if that works out best for them. So we do have options to help the customers pay for it. Once the transaction has been done and we set up their financing for them, we bring all that paperwork into our office, and we have a couple of folks in our office that have been with us for some time, and they really go through the paperwork rigorously and make sure that we've crossed all of our T's and dotted all of our I's, and we've answered all the questions. They know that what we're putting up and how it's going to go together. And then that moves from our production staff, or excuse me, from our operations staff to our production staff. Usually with our LeafGuard projects, we have a fairly quick turnaround period. Usually within about 5 or 6 days, we're out there installing the product, so it goes very quickly. Roofing takes a little bit longer, as do some of the other products, because we actually have to order those products for that particular house. But we try to stay in communication with the customer the whole time during the project. That way they know when we're going to show up and they know what to expect.
One thing that I think we both forgot to mention is we do take credit cards.
We do take credit
Yeah.
cards. We take a lot of credit
Yeah, we
cards.
take a lot of credit cards,
Yeah.
and I know some consumers don't want to pay that fee to use credit cards, but it does cost them money, and we try and provide them the lowest price
Mhm.
option and let them decide whether or not they want to
Right.
rack up the miles, and it's okay with us.
Yeah,
Right.
that's fine.
And but we want to provide them whatever avenue that they would choose to pay us, and I think the financing has really taken off over the last couple of years using the bank's money to do that.
It has.
So Bill, one of the things that when people decide to buy one of our products, especially the LeafGuard, the motto is get it and forget it.
Right.
And why is that so important? Because it is just a gutter system, right, Bill?
Yeah, well, it is just a gutter system, but it's a gutter system that in many cases customers are having to get out on a ladder or climb up there and clean out every year. And it can be very dangerous. Homeowners fall off of ladders more than anything else that happens to them. And so what we're trying to do is provide a solution that eliminates that customer from ever having to get back up on a ladder. We also have some warranties in place that go even a little bit further than that. First thing that we warrant is that this gutter system will never clog. So if it does clog, rather than getting out the getting out the ladder. All they have to do is get out their phone, make a quick phone call to Beldon, and we schedule service for them. Our service crew comes out, they'll clean out the gutter, make sure everything's done, give it a quick inspection, and they don't have to worry about it. The second thing we guarantee is that it'll never pull away from the house. You know, I talked about water getting behind gutters earlier, and one of the biggest problems with water getting behind a gutter is those fasteners that fasten into the fascia and the roofing start to pull loose over time once they get wet. Once that happens, that gutter starts to pull off the house. It doesn't work properly. Well, we want to make sure that never happens. First of all, we use a gutter that will never allow water to get behind the house, so we guarantee it for life to never pull away from the house. So if you ever see your LeafGuard gutter starting to pull away from any reason, we're going to come out and take care of that as well.
Well, and you and I met in Cleveland, if you remember, and you applied for a position in Cleveland at our office there. But what I think is unique about that cold water market is the amount of weight ice and snow have on that gutter.
That's correct.
And we never had a gutter fall off.
Don't
ever.
have them. They
in
don't
all the
fall
years
off.
we had that franchise.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just, it stays up there, and with that ABS plastic hanger and the coated screw, we just don't experience problems. But you know, one thing you talked about the clogs, you know, it's still a 1-inch opening, so there's the ability for something to get in, and it flushes through the big mouth adapters. But one thing that hasn't changed over the years from a technology standpoint is how we unclog when a bird puts a nest or whatever. It's still the old-fashioned way.
Just
we
reach in
we got
there
a specific stick, and we go in there and we're pulling the stuff out piece by piece.
That's right.
But I mean, that's how it got in there too,
That's
right?
right.
That's how the bird got it in there.
That's how they got it in there, piece at a time. And we have to take care of that every once in a while. And for us, it's just a matter of course that we go do it. And what's really interesting is here at Beldon, we don't have dedicated service crews because we don't have enough service to even have dedicated service crews. So we're able to just take care of that with our regular installation.
So are
crew.
you saying that you and I are the service crew?
I'm the service crew sometime.
So,
I have been known to hook up a downspout every once in a while back on a customer's house.
So Bill, this whole thing started because we got a bad review. And I'm not looking to be a 5.0 company because I don't want people to not believe we're human beings. We make mistakes, but I think what separates a good company from a bad company is those companies that make a mistake, what do they do to fix it?
Right.
And how do they rectify the situation? So, you know, you and I can't control social media. And social media really levels the playing field. A company 78 years old like ours, 4th generation, is the same equivalent of somebody who opened up down the street yesterday. And so why are those reviews, I know it's hard on the consumer and it takes time, but why are those reviews so important to us or another vendor that they choose to do business with?
Yeah, because, it really helps the community to have those 5-star or those good Google reviews out there, as well as some bad ones. Occasionally it happens, but because it helps keep other consumers knowing who to go to and who to trust for their business. And, when I get out to a lot of homes, that's one of the reasons they say they called us out, is because they saw so many good reviews about our company and how well we worked with other customers, and they want to be treated that way as well.
You know, what's interesting is, Bill, I don't know what the percentage is, but let's say it's 5 or 10% of our reviews are from our employees, their families. They're talking about, I like working there. And, that makes me proud.
Sure.
As 3rd generation and Marshall is 4th generation, about we're doing the right thing.
Yes.
We take care of people. If we make a mistake, we do whatever it takes to make it right. As long as it's within the scope of our work.
Sure. Absolutely.
So we talked about the fascia earlier. You've told me for years that you're a damn good carpenter. You've never proven it. You've never shown us a single product that you've ever made. But everybody here knows you're a carpenter and that you actually own a skill saw. I own a skill saw, Bill, but it's
that doesn't make me a believer, though.
It's still, I'm not sure that I even know how to take the hood off. It came with that whole set that I bought, and it makes me feel like I know what I'm doing.
Sure.
Danny says that he's going to teach me how to use that skill saw, but at 59, I'm still waiting. I'm probably 4 generations of skill saws behind. But so, Bill, what's the coolest thing you've ever made with your carpentry skills? Because You talked about your work-life balance and working with the kids, but all the time we always hear about these cool things that you're building.
Mhm.
Over the last 20 years, what's the coolest thing you've made with
Well,
your own hands?
that's a great. I've done a lot of big projects, renovated, my own homes and things like that. But I got to say, one of the things that I enjoy doing most, my wife says that I make her Pinterest dreams come true, because she'll show me a wall treatment or something like that, and I have the ability, thank God, to be able to do that for her and have her enjoy that. But probably one of the most fun projects that I've ever done was when we lived in Ohio. We talked about Cleveland earlier. We lived out in the woods, and I built a massive tree house out in the trees for my granddaughter. And she was there that summer and helped me drive the nails and everything. And it wasn't the most elaborate project I've ever done, but it was very rewarding to see the end result with her.
That's very cool. So Bill, we've been in this industry a long time. We've talked about that.
Yeah, you've said that before.
Technology has changed this industry. Fax machines have changed the industry. Over your 40 plus years in this industry, what's the single biggest significant change or evolution that you've seen in the home improvement industry?
Wow, that's a tough question, but I think the biggest change I've seen is just the amount of information that's available to the consumer that's out there. And
On the internet, you mean?
on the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
And
the
YouTube and
YouTube and every place you look. And there's good things about that because consumers are much better educated, but there's also some bad things about that because we find that so many consumers get misinformation about the home improvement industry or how things are done or what things cost and things like that. But I would say that the biggest one is just the amount of information that's accessible to people about the industry.
So when you look in this studio all around us, we have the green room, the
Mhm.
white room, we have our podcast wall, and we built this table here.
Mhm.
We did all of that off YouTube,
Mhm.
right? And I mean, we've never designed a studio before,
Mhm.
but all of us got together and said, we're capable of doing this.
We have the skills.
We have the skills. We just have to
Mhm.
figure it out. And we built a very professional studio here.
Mhm.
And it makes you feel proud that we did this on our own because we went and educated ourselves, and we made some mistakes, but it turned out great, and we get a lot of use out of it.
Absolutely.
So Bill, for our listeners today, if they have any questions about home improvement or anything else that they heard today, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Yeah, best way to get hold of me is to actually reach me by email. It's bill.goddard@beldon.com. That's usually the easiest way to contact me, and I'll answer your emails if you have questions or concerns, anything that I could help with.
Bill, I can't thank you enough for joining the Brad Beldon Show today and sharing your incredible insights in the home improvement space. Thanks for tuning in today. Tomorrow's guest will be Brittany Rosenthal, and she'll be discussing the San Antonio downtown development scene. Have a wonderful day. We'll see you tomorrow.